if I were to answer this question, and I'll answer it flat out. No, I wouldn't. In general, I am very anti-war. I'm certainly anti-regime change. I think that if you're going to try to convince me that you somehow think that this is going to be the time that regime change is going to work, like all the other times, we got a stack of evidence that this just doesn't work, and it just produces more hate and more enemies and more borders all messed up and more sanctions, and this is the time? Like, this is the one that's finally going to work? This is going to take? I'd love to see it. I truly would love to see it. But what's probably going to end up happening is whatever we're doing with these skirmish / potentially all-out war, almost guaranteed it's going to make things worse. So would I enter that? No. I would probably have just a very hard line that it has to be diplomatic. And honestly, the solution to all of these problems is prosperity. That is the problem, is that if the United States wanted to fix Iran, for example, actually had an interest in fixing Gaza, for example, it doesn't come from bombs and regime change. It comes only one way. You need to make that region prosperous. You'd have to have the interest to do that, because the moment that you use sanctions, now you've destroyed any future potential for anybody living in that region to actually prosper. So the only solution then would be to lash out and make irrational, defensive, retaliatory decisions, which is what happens. And then everybody has a different clock. They're starting, this person thinks that this team's the right team because they're starting at 1968. And this person says that, no, this team's definitely correct. I mean, they're just fighting back. They're just defending themselves. But that person started their clock in 1989. So what game are we playing here? Let's just, the goal should be global universal prosperity. If we truly wanted to stop the global conflicts, it only happens with more equality and prosperity. It cannot happen by forcing people to do certain things, by holding them down, building them up, and they live next to each other, and somehow it's all going to work out. I can't believe we just bang our head into the same wall over and over again. And, it's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. This will not be different this time, I can promise you. So long story short, no, I'm 99% diplomacy. And unless I see a tank rolling like literally down this street, I'm not fighting back. That's not the way, in my opinion, right? People can have their own opinions. I just think that at some point we have to acknowledge that there is enough in this world for all of us. There really is. Anybody who says otherwise, just, they just want to keep their 17 houses and 40 supercars. But there's definitely enough for all of us. We need to work on global prosperity if we want to solve this. Unfortunately, our own individual countries can't even figure out domestic equality. We can't. The United States doesn't even have universal health care, one of the richest countries in the world. So I'm going to expect them to also just grant, wealth and riches to Iran. That's not going to happen. So I understand that this is just an idealistic, somewhat nonsensical take, but yeah, it's just massive, crippling inequality that makes people do the things that they do. And if we want to fix it, and look, rich people, flies in leave my champagne alone. Rich people, at some point, because the wealth inequality has gotten so bad that at some point, rich people are actually going to want to be giving their money away to make it a prosperous place. Because once it reaches a point, the world's not going to be safe for anybody to live in. And you can pretend that you can just go to your gated community and shut the world off. But if you want to be a part of society, you don't want to live somewhere where you're 500 times richer than your neighbors. It just, at some point, your life becomes too dangerous to be doing that. So, unimportant text. Yeah, at some point, the global goal should be closer equality. I'm not a pure socialist or anything. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, this is crazy. We're bombing and going to war with countries that are only trying to survive. It's just insane.